Hello and welcome to Veggie Patch Ideas. Today we're continuing on with how we get our seedlings from start to finish, and we did start these early, and a lot of questions I got is what do you do once your seedlings appear? And these appeared quite a few days ago and I've left them, and I've just set this up today for you. So this is my grow light setup, and the first thing we want to be doing once these have germinated is taking the lids off. So get rid of your lids. And as we can see, it's been 2 weeks since I've sown these, because if you've watched every episode on this season, you'll know I had a nightmare and the mouse come and he took all the seedlings. So I started again. We're 2 weeks in. But an interesting thing has happened, this is why I do it, to be fair. So, and I will zoom the camera in, but basically my jalapeno peppers have all germinated, absolutely fantastic. Aubergines, I've got 4, which is not the end of the world. Cayenne peppers, all germinated, fantastic. And bell peppers, not a single thing, nada. And this has been 2 weeks. So what that tells me is my packet of bell pepper seeds are probably out of date now, and they're no good for anything. So I need to replace the bell peppers. So I need to go out, buy some pepper seeds and get them sown today. The cayenne and the jalapeno peppers, I've got quite a few, but I do like to do a lot of chilies. So on my second sowing, I'm going to do more chilies. And because the aubergines, I've only got 4 seedlings, and if we follow these through the life cycle of the plant, they may not survive. So I'm going to need more aubergines. And this 2-week gap, because we're midway through January and I'm going to need the heat mat at the start of February for other veg, I can now fill in the gaps of what I've got left. And I hope that makes sense to you. So increase my chilies, get started on a fresh sowing of bell peppers, and just plus up on my aubergines. And then if I get all these seedlings going, we're on to a winner, and I don't have to worry about those crops anymore, and we can focus on something else. So that's what I've got going on my heat tray. And because they've all germinated, well, the ones that are actually viable have germinated, the lid's off and these are now under lights. And I'll go into my light situation in just a moment, so slow down. As for the other seed tray, our radish of course come through, and our rocket, it did indeed set seed and germinate within 3 days, like I said it would. So I know these seeds are fine, and I've got absolutely a metric ton of them. So we don't need any more rocket, that's fine. The moon red is coming through and the Lola Rosso is coming through. The 2 things that I thought would germinate but haven't, interestingly enough, are the Winter Destiny and the 4 Seasons lettuce. So either I sowed them wrong, which I didn't. The mix was wrong, which they always germinate in this mix, so it isn't. Or the seed packets are slightly old and it's just that time to say goodbye. So I'm taking that option. They were last year's seed packet, and maybe it's just time to buy more lettuce. And you know I like my mixed red. So for my next cold tray, I'll be doing another sowing of mixed red leaf. And I don't really need to show you, because it was exactly the same of what I've done with these. So if you don't know what I've done, skip on back to the January sowing and you'll see exactly how I did it there. So they're my cold trays, and my onion ones, which are out of shot because I've just got them sat in another room, they haven't germinated at all. Now this is either down to temperature, because I've kept them cold, I've kept them around 13-14 degrees, and ideally it should be plus 16 to germinate onions. It has been so cold here. It's been, you know, some days -5, -6. So it's been very cold, but the daytime temperatures have been cold also. So it hasn't helped, and I haven't heated them in any way. So what I'll do, I'll move these out to a very sunny spot to try and encourage that growth. I'll keep an eye on them for the next few days. If they still haven't germinated, I'll just re-sow. So that's the update on all of my seedlings, apart from, and I need to go and fetch this one, apart from a little radiator tray, and this hasn't seen any heat whatsoever. And in here are chili peppers, and we all know chili peppers love heat and they only germinate in heat. So the fact that this hasn't seen any heat whatsoever, apart from a radiator being on occasionally, and it's in the kitchen, so the kitchen's fairly warm constantly because we're always cooking. It just hasn't got up really hot. But if I take the lid off, you can see we've got just one germinated. So it does work. Within the next few, and that came up, that was a large spider. Now that came out overnight yesterday. So I think on this seed tray, we've got more to come. I'm going to keep an eye on it, and then we'll see where that takes us. So we know we need a few more chilies, and everything else is looking fine. And this is why we do the tests, just to gauge where you are and what you need to do. It's very early in the season. Don't panic if you haven't started anything. This is what I do, and it just keeps me ticking over and sort of making a list of what I need to do to get that stock ready for the spring. Now, these grow lights, they're actually really good, and I have quite a few grow lights over the seasons, and I'll talk you through what these are like. And when the sun goes down, as you can see, we're all lit up, so there's plenty of room to put those seed trays wherever I want, and I can always stretch this across the floor and it will do comfortably 6 seed trays. That's more than I need, and that's just what you want to get established. Once these have come off the light and they're getting on and they're growing strong, I can move them away from the grow lights. But to start things off, this is simple but so effective. Now for the grow lights, it is a very easy setup, and that's how I keep it here. Nothing fancy, and I just want this so everybody can follow along if they want to, and it doesn't have to cost the earth. This setup I've had for a good few years now, but I find it good because it sits on my coffee table, so it's custom, and I'll show you how I did it. But it has 2 layers. So if you can see here, the bottom layer is under light and the top layer is under light. And it's quite simple. I just used a few battens, made a couple of legs, nothing outrageous, and the lights just sit inside the bottom, and they're hooked on by these little twiny bits that you use to prop up plants. So the little wires are in plastic, and they go through the holes and they just hook up. Nothing fancy, but it keeps them all in place, and it is a full spectrum light. I'll put a link to something close as what I can find in the description so you can see what I bought. If I can find the exact one, I will link it for you. But essentially it has a little control on the side here, and this will do the intensity of the lights. Now at full whack, so at full brightness, this will draw 13 watts, and if you scale it right down, which you probably don't need to, but if you do, it'll go down to 7 watts. And the UK has high energy prices, so if you're watching in other countries, I'm sure you do as well, but ours seem to be creeping up and up and up. But I've just done a calculation, and I'll link this in the description, but to run 13 watts, it's probably around 1 pence per hour. So it's not the end of the world. And I don't run these all the time. I know I could, but for one, I'm in a conservatory, so natural daylight is always better. So I have natural daylight coming in, and when it starts to get dark, I'll extend that light. So I'll turn these on at that point, and I'll leave them on for 3 or 4 hours or a couple of hours each side. And what this does, it just mimics the spring. So these seedlings will now, because they've just gone under light, start to think that it's more like March than the middle of January. And what I'm doing, I'm kind of tricking them into growing and not getting so leggy. And a leggy seedling is something what you'll see on a couple of these chilies, where they come up, they germinate, and they reach for the sun. And because there's not a lot of it, this has been down in the corner with a lid on, it's searching for the light, and the seedling or the stem is growing very, very tall. Now they're out under light, what you'll find, they'll bush out more than grow tall, which is what we want. And a leggy seedling for chili peppers, before you start writing in, oh Glenn, you've wrecked everything. No, because a chili pepper and a pepper seedling, it can get leggy and it can grow on tall, because when we pop these on, I pop these on under the soil level. So I fill the soil level over the stem, and the stem then grows more roots, and you get a better root ball and a better plant. That's why I do it. So leggy seedlings, now they're out in the cold, and these won't be under the heat anymore because I'll swap the heat tray for my new sowings. These will slow down their growth quite a lot, and they'll just tick over in this cold weather. And that's how we want it. And we want that until March, and then they can start firing up. But we'll have our seedlings, and everything crossed, we'll get them through and in a position where they can go back into the polytunnel. But as you know, I have a house move coming up, and everything is in the air, everything's in boxes, and it's just chaos. I'm trying to dismantle the house as I do this. So this season is going to be a bit tricky, but I'm going to stay with you and we're going to get through it. Little videos like this, I hope they help, and if they do, think about subscribing and we'll walk you through the season. And if you have already subscribed, I really thank you very much. This tiny channel, it just needs to grow like our plants and make everyone better gardeners. So that's the setup I've got for the lights. This small heated tray is all I've got for heat, and we'll get there and we'll get through the season and we'll grow enough for a family of 4. I do promise you that. And let's have fun along the way. I'm Glenn, this is Veggie Patch Ideas, and we'll see you on the next video.